Welcome back to the Weekly Education Pulse. I'm Sammy.
And Tony. Each week we break down the key developments shaping the international and independent school sector.
Yeah, this week, 5 stories that cover the full breadth of what's happening in the sector right now. Structural changes in the UK independent market, a major global technology partnership, an exam board redesigning how it serves international schools, a cautionary tale from Turkey about what inflation does to private education, and a significant expansion story for the UAE.
So let's get into it.
Let's do it. And we begin in Berkshire with an announcement made on St. George's Day that is one of the most symbolically resonant school developments we have seen in the UK independent sector this year.
St George's School Windsor Castle and St George's School Ascot have announced they will come together to form a new coeducational through school. St George's School, Windsor and Ascot, supported by the St Albans Education Group. The new school will offer a seamless education from age 3 through to 18 across the two sites, which are less than 7 miles apart.
Yeah, these are two genuinely distinguished schools. St George's Windsor Castle, set within the grounds of Windsor Castle itself, home to the choristers of St George's Chapel, with a history stretching back to 1348, is one of the most distinctive prep school settings in the country.
St George's Ascot is a leading girls' boarding and day school founded in 1877, approaching its 150th anniversary, known for strong academics, a rich co-curricular tradition, particularly in music and the arts, and a genuine commitment to developing confident, capable young women.
Yeah, under the new model, St George's Ascot becomes co-educational, with boys joining years 7 and 9 from September 2027. The full through school structure is expected to be in place by 2028.
What is well considered here is the alignment at every level. Same name, shared traditions, particularly in music and the performing arts. Sites close enough to function as genuine education continuum, but distinct enough to maintain their own identities.
Yeah, and the St Albans Education Group provides the structural framework that makes this sustainable. This is not a merger driven by necessity. It is two schools with a natural affinity building something stronger that neither could build alone.
St George's Ascot, the move to co-educational approaching its 150th anniversary is framed not as a departure from identity, but the next chapter of it. And that framing matters. The school that manages transitions like this well are the ones that treat change as evolution rather than abandonment.
Yeah, for families, the result is genuinely a distinctive offer. An education from age 3 to 18, rooted in deep heritage with exceptional music, strong academics, and pastoral care across two beautiful Berkshire sites.
Our second story takes us into the classroom, where Nord Anglia Education has announced its first international school group to bring Minecraft education into classrooms globally.
Yeah, the first challenge, called Building Community, involves students across 5 schools in the US, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and Ecuador working together in a shared virtual world to design and construct communities. It was developed through Nord Anglia's collaboration with MIT.
The pedagogical case here is worth making clearly. Minecraft works as an educational tool, not just because students enjoy it, or that clearly matters. It's because the task itself requires are genuinely demanding.
In a shared virtual environment, students have to communicate across languages and time zones. They divide responsibilities, negotiate creative decisions, and iterate on ideas that do not work first time. These are not peripheral skills. They're skills we have been hearing about all year as the ones most resistant to AI automation.
Students access Minecraft education through Nord Anglia's global campus platform, which connects over 100,000 students across 89 schools in 37 countries. Dedicated servers allow projects to evolve over time. Students revisit, refine, and improve their work rather than starting from scratch each lesson.
Yeah, building community is just the first challenge. More are planned, and the more schools that participate, the richer the collaborative experience becomes.
It's a good illustration of how international school networks can turn their geographic spread into a genuine educational asset, not just a marketing point, but something that delivers a learning experience that's simply impossible to replicate in a single country.
Yeah, and from Nord Anglia, we're going to move to our third story, which goes to the world of qualifications, where OxfordAQA has announced a series of meaningful improvements to how it delivers exams, based on feedback from hundreds of schools worldwide, phased in between now and 2029.
These are the headline changes. From 2028, a full October and November exam series for all international AS and A-level subjects, alongside the existing May and June series. This gives schools in the Southern Hemisphere and those on a non-standard academic calendar the ability to align exams far more closely to their own school year.
Yeah, from 2029, a third January series will be introduced for biology, chemistry, physics, maths, further maths, and economics. So students in those subjects will eventually have 3 opportunities a year to sit exams.
2027, May and June results will be released at the end of July, earlier than currently. More time for A-level students navigating university applications, more time for GCSE students planning their next steps before the new academic year starts.
Yeah, there's also a later entries deadline from March 2027. So January unit results are known before final submission decisions are made, and the extended project qualification gains 2 submission windows, May and November, giving students greater flexibility in managing long form projects alongside the rest of their workload.
And together, what this reflects is an exam board that is genuinely listening to how international schools operate and redesigning its infrastructure to fit their reality rather than expecting schools to work around the legacy domestic structure.
Yeah, for schools already offering Oxford AQA qualifications, these changes reduce friction and improve outcomes. So for schools considering Oxford AQA, they represent a meaningful competitive differentiator. And for the sector more broadly, they raise a useful question about whether other qualification providers are paying similarly close attention to what international schools actually need.
Now let's move on to our fourth story, which takes us to Turkey, where private school fees for the 26-27 academic year have crossed into the 1 million lira, around $22,300, placing them in the same bracket as elite European boarding schools in cost terms.
Yeah, the context matters enormously here. Turkey has been dealing with double-digit inflation since 2019, following a period of unconventional monetary policy that sharply depreciated the lira. The government has maintained tight fiscal monetary policy for more than 2 years, and inflation has eased, but remains around 31% annually.
The Education Ministry capped fee increases at approximately 44% for entry-level grades and 31% for intermediate grades. But the cumulative effect of several years of high inflation has pushed fees to levels that are genuinely out of reach for most Turkish families.
Yeah, the numbers tell the story clearly. Over the past 5 years, more than 200,000 students have left private schools. More than 1,000 private schools have closed, and the Turkey Private Schools Association acknowledges this directly. And the concern is that further increases will only accelerate the trend.
International schools operating in Turkey, and for operators considering the market, this is important context. A fee level approaches European boarding schools is only sustainable if the economy supporting it can actually carry that weight.
Yeah, and Turkey is not the only market where this dynamic is playing out. The lesson for operators across the sector is a straightforward one. Premium fee levels need stable economic conditions beneath them. Where inflation erodes purchasing power at this pace, the most important differentiator is not the facilities of the brand, it's the values families believe they're genuinely receiving for money they can increasingly ill afford.
And our final story this week takes us to the UAE, where Woodland Education, a multi-curriculum school group founded in Ajman in 2017, has announced 8 new schools across the country, generating over 1,500 new teaching and non-teaching roles.
Yeah, Woodland currently operates 12 schools and 2 nurseries, serving over 20,000 students with around 3,000 staff. So this expansion effectively doubles its campus footprint, with 4 schools opening in September 2026 in Ajman, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah, and Dubai, offering American British curricula, followed by 4 more in a second phase.
What is distinctive about Woodland's positioning is where it sits in the UAE market. This is not a premium fee group targeting expatriate families in high-cost urban areas. It is a multi-curriculum operator focused on accessible, quality education across a full spectrum of UAE communities, Indian, British, American curricula operating across multiple emirates.
Yeah, that diversity is a genuine strength. It means the group is not dependent on a single demographic or a single curriculum's regulatory fortunes. And as the UAE's population continues to grow and diversify, Woodland is well positioned to capture demand across multiple segments simultaneously.
Job creation dimension is also worth noting. 1,500 new roles across teaching and non-teaching function is a significant contribution to the UAE education workforce, and the group's emphasis on supporting career development alongside student outcomes signals an approach to staffing that goes well beyond simply filling vacancies.
And in a market as competitive as the UAE, where new schools are opening regularly and parents are increasingly discerning, the operators who sustain growth are the ones who invest in people as deliberately as they invest in buildings. So Woodland's expansion suggests they understand that clearly.
And that brings us to the end of this week's episode.
Yeah, what this week's stories reflect is a sector operating on multiple levels at once: structural consolidation and partnership in the UK independent schools market, global technology partnerships bringing new dimensions to classroom learning, qualification providers adapting to serve international schools more effectively.
And at the same time, two very different economic stories, one from Turkey, where inflation has put private education under serious pressure, and one from the UAE, where growth and investment remain robust.
So the sector is rarely moving in one direction, and understanding the different forces shaping it in different markets is exactly what makes this conversation worth having every single week.
If there's a development in your region that we should be covering, please do get in touch.
And we'll be back next week with another update. Till then, we'll see you next time.